realize it's the same fight that built waves. I don't need friends, though I'll be lonely. And all I need is shine my own space. Oh Lord, I'm running, 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 running away. I'm running, running from bad mind and jealousy. Oh Lord, I'm running, 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 running away. I'm running, running, running so far away, so far away. I wanna be alone. My heart is aching me. I wanna be alone. Bad mind, I'm begging, please. I wanna be alone. I'm fighting on my knees. Fighting on my knees. All alone, all alone. Alone, alone, alone. All alone, all alone. I wanna be alone. All alone, alone.
This Saturday on Studio Galaxy 473 from Confero. And we have this program, the particular program today is Galaxy Equalizers. And today on the Equalizer we have with us our brother Joshwa Luis, like Joshua in the Bible. And we are on an important issue today, agriculture. And one might ask, what agriculture have to do with frack? Well, perhaps I should tell you a little about frack. The physical responsibility has been changed to fiscal resilience. In 2015, the government adopted legislation to guide and anchor the conduct of fiscal policy in Grenada. You know, we had a problem, we can't manage ourselves. We're unruly. We don't manage in with finances. So we thought it necessary to pass legislation to do that. The Fiscal Responsibility Act number 29 of 2015 and its subsequent amendments establish a rule-based framework to ensure that the government's spending and financing activities are consistent with the country's ability to service the debt. I always believe that people in homes should adopt that policy. The legislation established fiscal rules and targets among other requirements that the government was expected to adhere to in order to achieve the purpose of the Act, except in instances where they are temporarily suspended. What instances is this? Hurricane,
COVID,
disaster, COVID-19, earthquake, all hell break loose.
yes.
The Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2015 and its amendments was repealed and replaced with the Fiscal Resilience Act of 2023, which became effective from January 2024. And absolutely nothing is wrong with repealing acts and replacing it. But why? That act started in 2015. And Grenada, you know, was in the jaws of the IMF, and we had a massive sacrifice was made. And we were considered unruly where our financing is concerned. So we legislate financing. So a new government come into power. And immediately, they decide to change fiscal responsibility to fiscal resilience. I thought it was necessary to have some discussion why the change. Most people, the ordinary man would understand what responsibility is. But resilience, I see in trouble to pronounce the word for myself. Resilience. So some people have difficulties with resilience. So government, you need people on board. So they should explain it. The genuineness of the repeal. Explain it, discuss it, and tell people why we're changing from responsibility to resilience. The advantages from it. But they never did that. Otherwise, the Fiscal Resilience Act do away with the notion of responsibility and introduce the concept of fiscal resilience. That is the management of fiscal matters for the long-term sustainability and improve capacity to withstand economic shocks. And that is when the ordinary man does get left with, and he just leave you and go and drink around. Because you come and you start to tell him now about long-term sustainability and improve capacity to withstand economic shock, and he get left. Now, the new act retains many of the definition and provision of Fiscal Responsibility Act. However, it provides in some instances greater clarity for some key concepts and allow for greater flexibility in fiscal management and the pursuit of debt sustainability, and contains a new and significant clause requiring that all proposed projects for capital expenditure programs of the central government include climate change mitigation and adaptation consideration. You see, big odds? Because they say it's a new. Let's go over that. The clause requiring that all proposed projects for capital expenditure programs of the central government include climate change mitigation and adaptation consideration. And the word is consideration. You know? After you make all these big things, the word is consideration. You don't say you must, you know. You don't say you shall, you know. You don't say you will, you know. You say you must consider. So this is very important. That is why when you see this nice sounding language, you give a man an A for that. But when it's practicality now, I have to call Joshua. Joshua, the frock. Agriculture and the frock. Yes, my brother.
Well, you know, the FRAC, I heard a snippet on the news about it being a very positive report. And also, read something, you know, I don't want to advertise, but in now Grenada, about the CTO, the Caribbean Tourism Authority. And the headline was, Prime Minister abandoned his formal speech to, you know, say what's on his mind in terms of the Caribbean Tourism Authority. And I thought it was interesting that the Prime Minister would be, you know, a little bit kind of uncomfortable in terms of how the CTO conference was going. Because what he was uncomfortable about is what's been going on for, you know, from inception of the CTO, the Caribbean Tourism Organization. And that is, you know, the key stakeholders in terms of the CTO are not invited to the conference. You know, the supply chain are not invited to the conference. So the farmers are not invited to the conference. The farmers' views are not heard at the conference. Other suppliers are not invited. And, you know, the narrative is that you come to Grenada or the Caribbean, you get all the concession imaginable and unimaginable. And you promise that you're going to give employment, you're going to engage the local farmers, and then you start your hotel and you say the farmers are unreliable. They can't produce in quantity. We have to import our food. Now, you know, the Prime Minister, to his credit, stood up for farmers and stood up for other stakeholders. You know, that argument that is often used by people who don't want to use local services, local produce, is a false narrative that's been going on for far too long. And essentially, what happens is that the hotels would create an arrangement. They have one of the system they use is what's known as the just-in-time system in terms of getting produce. So they will call you a day before they want the produce, and they'll tell you they want, maybe 10 cases of eggs or 10 trays of eggs or 50 trays of eggs. And you go to the chicken and you say, Mr. Chicken, you could give me 50,000 cases of eggs for tomorrow. She looks at you and she laughs and just chuckles along. That system, which employs so many graduates and bright people in the tourism industry, really doesn't work. If you're lucky and you have 50 trays, you can give it. But most of the time, people don't have 50 trays of eggs just waiting there. We don't really have the refrigeration, and electricity cost is very high on our island. So, well, once the eggs, is laid, we want to get rid of it. And farmers tend to do small amounts because they don't want the wastage due to lack of refrigeration, etc. So we have this kind of narrative that farmers can't produce, farmers are unreliable, it's easier to do business, just send the containers from Miami. But really, that is an unsustainable model, and we can't really continue that way. And somebody has to kind of stand up for the farming community and put the opposite argument forward, which is farmers can produce large amounts. Grenada is blessed with soil that's very fertile. And once you introduce into the narrative contracts, that changes the game. It totally changes the game. As well as the contracts. If you add a little insurance to the contract, the whole game is transformational, because at that point, with a contract, the farmer could go to the bank. I know my colleague here don't like the GDB, but the GDB has some good interest rates, at the moment. The other commercial banks have as well. And you can get a loan, you could expand your farm with the confidence that your products are going to be produced. But far too long, we've allowed others to design the narrative for us.
Who to blame for that? You say we allow others. Mm-hmm. Who to blame for we allowing others?
I think Mr. Francis, Pierre, I think Mr. Joshua Lewis, and many others are to blame, because I think we've been negligent in terms of advocating for our country and for our industry.
We have not been lobbying on our behalf.
Yeah, we should be on the street in front of the hotel saying, this has to stop. We can produce. We need to be on the news saying, this is a false narrative that's going on in terms of the farmers.
But who created the narrative?
Well, the narrative, as I always talk about, and this is really where...
Nobody owns the narrative.
Yeah.
We say they create a narrative, but nobody owns it.
But these things are easy to see who created it, who owns it. See who benefits from it. Then you will see the owner.
But remember, governments practically beg or law with massive concession these companies to come in the country.
Yes, and let me deal with that, because that is an issue where we have to kind of stand up and see what we're doing. So this is what I've seen on the ground. I've recently kind of been on the ground in terms of the last probably about 8-9 months in terms of trying to see really what's going on. And this is what goes on. What you just said is the problem. Government often give these companies all the concession they need without the farmer representative being on the table. So what happens is that when the farmers go to negotiate or bring goods to these hotels, they already have a structure in place that is far cheaper than what the locals can produce. And therefore, the farmer is then left at the mercy, of the hotel to take whatever they give him. Now, how these things should be done, in my view, because, I'm not the repository of knowledge. In my view, what needs to be done, the farmer has to have a representative at GIDC when these concessions are being given. There should be a target, of 20% of all your food produce being utilized or coming from Grenada. And unless you can't produce it, then you could import it. But I think unless we get structures and system in place, we will forever
Do you not think that our farmers, lobbyists or representative, whoever that is, was sleeping?
Oh,
we have to zero in to
yeah.
start somewhere. Some might say shock therapy.
Yeah, but we've not always had representatives who've been properly briefed. Now,
Who to brief them?
Is
If they're representing the farmer and they're seeking the interest of the farmer and they're jumping up and say, I'm representing the farmer, who to brief them?
yeah, well, I know Roderick, which is our senator for agriculture.
That is the farmer's representative in the Senate.
Yes, and Roderick is a good man, and the things
Is
that
he a good man for the farmers?
He's
He might be a good man to pray with. He might be a good man to teach. But is he a good man to lobby on behalf of the farmer?
Roderick is a good man in the rum shop. Roderick is a good man for the farmers. Roderick is a good friend. And Roderick has very little resources to call on. He doesn't even have an office, And
Well, I always say an office is right now I see an office is a good phone and a good laptop.
Yeah.
The physical space for an office
Yeah.
doesn't really need it. It's not existing.
Yeah. There's still
But I have to agree with you, it's one of the best opportunity I see farmers have to lobby, in all fairness.
Roderick is a good man.
But we go back historically. The farmers perhaps have had the worst representation in the history of Grenada. Whether you talk about going way back when we're nutmeg. And the farmers have always had for a very long time representation at the highest level. Then the upper house.
Yes.
Let's take that call. Yes, caller.
Morning.
Yes, my brother.
Just plugging in.
Yes, thank you, my brother. And I like you said it was senior. I like you to say it was senior. We have we have a señorita with us this morning as one of we potential technical operator when Gates is not there. And we believe strongly and advocate that Spanish and French must be taught in primary schools.
Good show.
Yes, man. And because of our geopolitical culture and the amount of scholarship, if each one of the major Spanish countries give Grenada 10 scholarships a year, you know what that is? So I don't know why we don't wake up. Just as how we sleeping on agriculture, we sleeping on communication and language. So, yes, my man.
Yeah.
And that make economic sense. Because time is money.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother. Yes, thank you. Yes, my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joshua.
Yeah, I want to make a really big point. we were talking about the Prime Minister and the Caribbean Tourism Authority, and how we don't have the linkage and the infrastructure in terms of agriculture and tourism. Now, why I was a little bit confused by the PM is that he was like saying, this is not appropriate, that is not appropriate. I'm thinking, what's going on here? He has the power. He has the power in his hands to call all the hotels operated together and say to them, yes, there's an agreement and you have all this concession, but this country, this little Grenada, is being raped at the moment because of the policies that we've continued without thinking about it. We have to move to a target of at least 20% of your food coming from local producers. We have to move towards getting contracts with this farmer. I will do the bit with the GDP Bank and make sure monies are available for the farmers to lend for the greenhouses and shade houses. But the article I was reading, it sounded like if the Prime Minister was in the same position as me, living in hope rather than in Happy Hill as our previous Prime Minister.
And then you end up in Maki.
Yeah, and then I end up in Maki, but I'm close to hope. But Prime Minister has the power to change the narrative, to change what's going on, and to change it quickly. And it needs to be changed quickly. Call the hotels together, say, this is government policy, you are part of the solution, and let's get something done. Let the farmers march to the botanical gardens and have their voices heard.
But I don't think the farmer needs to match. Because if government take a policy that these 9 items, we could produce them, we pass in the necessary legislation and law that you want to function in Grenada with us, or we negotiate with you to make it more amicable. Within a year, we want you to start to take 20% of your needs from the farmers.
Yeah.
So the farmers know they have a year. And 20% of the needs. So government could come in now and say, okay, if it's tomatoes, I'm going to plant 20 acres of tomatoes on Granby Estate.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the lead. I'm going to take the initiative.
Yeah.
And we start to dance.
Yeah. No, you're right, because I'm working on a project in terms of just that, and these are some of the issues that's coming up. Where is the land coming from? Well, utilize the government estate positively. We need 50 acres to plant tomatoes. Let's use this estate and do the 50 acres. We need another 20 acres for seasoning peppers. Let's do it because we have the land, we have the water. Granby Estate is blessed with water.
You have Grandpa, you have Bellevue, you have Mount Rule, major estate.
Yeah, and water is a key thing.
And you have labor, you have people.
Yeah.
And they want work.
Yeah. But I'm not sure they all want work because they want a wage.
Well, no, I don't agree. Another thing. Well, they want money.
They want money.
The only reason man work is to get money.
Yes.
When you get money, you go and fret, you have a good time, you go and lie.
Yeah, not all.
Well, the majority.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons a man work is to obtain that which could make him get what he wants.
Yeah, but I want to stick to the point. The point is this. We have all the means available to us to make a difference. Now, once, government does the thing, and government, even if they don't do the things and put the infrastructure in place, the enabling environment you often hear about, the private sector can still continue until everybody else catches up with them, because there's a lot of people, small farmers, who are supplying the hotels at the moment. But what I can see is there's a total kind of mismatch, and the relationship is not right. It's like these farmers are made to feel as though the hotel is doing them a favor. And, the treatment of these people by some of the procurement officers, it's not good. So there needs to be a change. There needs to be an education in terms of that whole area. But it's something we can do today. we're doing it already. So we just need to expand on it, formalize it a little bit better, and it's going to be fantastic in terms of what's going on, because the Frock report talks about agriculture has contracted by 6%. It talks about tourism has grown by 15 odd percent. Construction has grown by about 11%. These numbers are not exact, because I was reading the report this morning, people, and unfortunately I didn't bring my laptop. Not that there's room in this office for a laptop. But, it's a good report. The people who wrote the report was good. There was only one omission.
Bright people write this report,
Yeah.
I hardly ever see a report that done good,
Yeah.
But when you go through the report is not workable. It's not practical.
No, this one is okay.
It reflects the reality.
Yeah, but
this one reflects the reality on the ground.
Yeah, but Mr. Pierre, the people who write this report, as you say, they're damn bright people, and they write well. They write very, very well.
You didn't see how we read about the last word I pick up, consideration. Yeah. You are not obligated to,
No, but Mr. Pierre, what I picked up, and I think it's important for the next report that it's included in the next report. I never picked up from the report the spend per head per tourist. Now they talked about 500,000 cruise ship visitors, and everything it's gone up.
About 90 cents go back to the, it's about 10 cents to get on the dollar. Yeah. And if you could improve that to 15 or 20 cents, you might be able to do something.
Yeah, because that is the real weakness in terms of this tourism. The spend per head is not high. And what we have to do as a country, we have to look and see how can we ease those dollars out of these people's pocket when they come and visit our island. Because all they're doing is drinking their sodas and they're this, causing more waste and whatever, trampling the streets, causing more repairs to be done. But we need to extrapolate a bit more from them in terms of getting a balance.
Some of the people involved in tourism, sometimes when you watch them alone, you don't even know it's Grenadian. You go in Jamaica, and since you reach on the airport, they're Jamaican. Yeah. Barbados, most countries you go, automatically you go in the country and you feel the country. When you're lying Grenada, you don't know if you're speaking to a Jamaican, somebody from even the language, the deportment, their appearance. Maybe they have some, When you watch them, you don't know if it's an Indian or Chinese or something.
Yeah, I don't want any resentment to build up against those people.
But we're just facing reality.
No, but let me
remember we're writing report.
No, let me let me have a say. Go
right there.
Right. I've noticed what you're saying, and I think that's a real fundamental structural problem. And the structural fundamental problem I see is that Grenadians per se do not fully understand the benefit of tourism and how they could benefit from it. Now, it's the same thing when you look at our economy. When you look at our, people who bring in the new cars, the old families. You look at insurance, it tends to be all the old families. They understand the economics. They understand the economics of tourism. The yachting community, I don't know how many years we will need for that transformation to get Grenadians involved in that.
150, you think might work?
Well, maybe we could do about 10. Let's have a target of 10 years for transformation in the yachting community where Grenadians are providing the services, etc. What has happened is that we have a lot of kind of business people who are international people who know the benefits of tourism, and they target all these islands, and when you look at who's renting the yachts, for people to rent a yacht for a week or a month, big money. You don't see Grenadian face there. You don't.
They're afraid they go drunk. They go near this.
Yeah.
80% of our people can't swim. Go ahead.
I didn't know that, but we have to challenge that in the schools. We have to, because certainly just down the road in Grenville, the beach is there. And you could teach people to swim. Swimming should be one of the classes, proper swimming instructors. I think that would do. But I think you touch on a point, and is how do you discuss this point without people thinking that you're picking on them or you're doing this on them? Because I'm always conscious, because I've lived in Canada for many years. I've lived in England for many years. I've spent a lot of time in the US. I see a lot of Grenadians in different countries, and I'm thinking, these Grenadians are, for the most part, are doing well. They're doing very well in a country that's not theirs. And I don't like people picking on them in Canada and America and whatever. So we have to have the discussion, but it has to be in a way that people don't take the negative from it, that somehow we are...
So shock therapy can work. You
Yeah.
see, shock therapy will always upset the sophistication of our people.
We want consensus, and we want to see real change, and we want to see targets. But what you say, and not only that, some of the tourism services requires big money to provide it. And I think we've been gullible in terms of that. I think the enabling environment could well be better. For example, I was trying to work on a tourism project with people who are better versed, more intelligent than I am. And we found the site, and the site was able to do something different than just sand, sea, and sex. So we were doing things like, you do historical tour of a fort. We have a restaurant on the fort. The fort had the most beautiful view that you could imagine. We wrote up the project. We sent it in to the previous administration. They never really looked at it. I've sent it back to this new administration, and it's over a couple of years. No word. I've been to see the minister, etc. And no word.
They don't like this project.
Well, it seems they don't like the project. It may be people who's involved in the project that's not like, but it's a beautiful project. The funding, the restoration of the building has all been taken care of, where the funds are going to come from. But it gives us something different. It diversifies our tourism offering. Now, that will take money from, the tourist pocket, because they'll have to pay to do the tour, similar to Barbados. Barbados have this ice cave or something where I see people, the minute they walk in, money coming from their pocket. Left,
Harrison
right.
Cave.
Yeah, Harrison Cave.
Tongue for a technician.
Yeah. Yeah, and
A couple of years ago, I went on a tour. When they say go down in the cave, I said, I'm afraid the cave fallen. I stay outside.
Yeah, but we have good models that we can replicate in Grenada. We can't just put the hotel on the beach and then let them go on the beach. We have to find different offering, and that was one of the offering that I thought, when I was invited to join the project, I thought it's wonderful. Government must sanction it, but after it's about 4 years now, both government...
Two.
No, well, it was 2 years with the previous
And 2
administration.
years with this one.
Yeah.
So, two, die four.
Yeah, and it would bring in so much kind of resources, create the employment we talk about, and it would be Grenadian owned and government owned, and I just can't...
Where do we start?
I
I mean, obviously, we are speaking about it here, so this is a point.
Well, we here to raise awareness, and to mobilize people and to get people...
And provoke discussion.
Yeah, provoke discussion and get people to move from discussion to action, and to hope that government also is listening and here's a different view in terms of how to go about things, how to solve day-to-day problems, because it's not enough to just say our vision is to have a booming tourism sector. Right. So you have the
What they mean by that?
yeah.
What they mean by that?
Yeah. But where is the structure to
A couple years ago, I think they came up with the view is not numbers you need. You need quality tourists. Tourists that will spend. An individual could come into Grenada and he's in trouble to spend $100.
Yeah.
He's gonna buy.
Yeah.
If you drink too much rum, you'll get drunk. So
Yeah.
he's in trouble to spend $100.
Yeah, but it's also a success and a failure because the Jamaican model is a model that's well. I talk about Jamaican model, the sandals model, is a model that really was designed to ensure tourists were safe and secure and all the rest of it, and on the beach. Now that model,
Inclusive.
yeah, all inclusive. It worked wonderfully well, but it detracted from the wider country.
Well, that is good for Jamaica. But in
economy.
Grenada, the safe part, you don't need it.
Yeah.
But they saw the inclusive for being safe
Yeah.
is not the justifier necessary.
Yeah. But the hotel operators like it because they can control the income.
Of course, all the inclusive.
income, yeah, you know.
Inclusive. That is what you call inclusive.
And there probably was a need for that. But there's an. You see, I always think about sustainable. And slavery was not sustainable. And the all
For
inclusive.
who?
It wasn't.
Well, be careful. For who? The people who were selling the slave, the sorry slave we done. They want to sell the people.
No, it was so. Always let me make the argument because
So I want to provoke you.
at times I'm a little long-winded, but I promise you I make a point. It wasn't sustainable in the long run because morally the world found it unacceptable, and it had to die. You know, and then they came up with this new model, the colonial model. That wasn't acceptable and it had to die. Then they came up with the foreign direct investment. Now, that has worked for a little while, but now countries are beginning to see this is not really benefiting us. We get in 5 cents and they get in 95 cents. So we have to see how we can rebalance that system or create a new system that is beneficial to us. But the problem that we have is the whole divide and conquer. So we will say in Grenada, we are giving you 80% concession. They will say in Barbados, we are giving you 90% concession. They will say in Antigua, we're giving you 100%. So we're fighting amongst ourselves as CARICOM islands to see who could get to the bottom of the ocean first. And the thing that we have to realize is that we have a unique product. The Caribbean Sea is a unique product. Where else are the cruise ship going to go and get it? They're going to go over to Mauritius, take a month and go to Mauritius. We have a unique product, and we need to behave as though we have a unique product, and we need to value it and sell it at the appropriate price. The days of gasoline or petrol selling for little to nothing was ended by the Arabs. The Arabs had the oil, and others were selling it for 5 cents a gallon. The Arabs said, no, that can't continue. We have to develop our people. We have to develop our country. Prices changed. Cartel came in. We have to look after our interests as CARICOM. We don't want to have cartel and exclude people, but there has to be a better balance where our people can send their children to university, have a decent vehicle, a decent home. We could have decent health care. We can have decent roads. And that is not going to come by us just complaining in the rum shop. We have to have policies. We have to adjust our systems to include us. We cannot just inherit a system and keep perpetuating it and saying it's not working. That is just madness. You know, we know what has to change. You know, we know what has to change. What we have to do is focus now, you know, on solutions. We've spent so many years complaining. We need to focus on solution, and our voices need to be heard by the people who can help bring about the change.
I think you're correct. And that is where I ask the question, where do we start? We have people who are supposed to be lobbying on our behalf. Are they lobbying on our behalf? Do they make sense? For instance, it's a fact that when in terms of agriculture, cocoa, nutmeg, fish, soursop, honey, flowers, sea moss. Those crops are there and they're tempting. Now we could produce more in it, but we have a significant amount to produce. That we know that they all want it. Now, how do we zero in?
Well, the first thing that you do, you need that think tank, about 2 or 3 persons who will create that infrastructure, so that the people who are producing can just produce, and we could get it going. We have a company in Texas, Mexico. They have 420 supermarkets, and a Grenadian company has a contract with them to supply them soursop and many other things. Now, the quantity they need, the company in Grenada cannot produce 5% of what they need currently. Now, the market is there. We need that organized system. We need a champion in terms of agriculture. We need 3 strategic people to kind of create that infrastructure for agriculture. It's not hard, to do.
For instance, soursop take, let's say, 3 years. They say 2, 18 months, but let's say 3. Because we don't do things fast. It takes 3 years to do. So if we plant 100 acres of soursop, or 50, and we decide to prune it, and we decide to do pollination, we can increase our soursop production by maybe 300%.
I was exposed to the FAO project on soursop. And one of the things that is transformational in soursop is what they call hand pollination. I went to a friend of mine, so I could call them friends. It's a husband and wife. And I watched them hand pollinate those trees. Those trees come from producing like 3 or 4 soursop to producing 25 soursop on one tree. It was amazing, absolutely amazing to see.
So Joshua, what do we need? You're a man of God, based upon your name. What we need to convince the Ministry of Agriculture that you have a market, you can satisfy it. The trees are there. So what you need to do to increase the pollination by a couple 100%, what you need to increase production by a couple 100% is to train people to do pollination and pruning. What we need.
So there's a program at the moment in terms of pruning. And the program has not reached enough soursop.
Anytime I don't hear about it, I say they don't advertise good. Because when Wagiti have a thing, I hear. All the men who making dances, sometimes I hear so much, I want to cut off the knives now.
But there's a culture I detected, Mr. Pierre, that's going on here. When people know something is going on and they can benefit, because I'm part of a group, there's about 17 to 18 of us. What I've detected is that group doesn't necessarily want to share to other groups. And that's something that the ministry has to step in and advertise. Don't kind of just give it to one group and that group feel nice and we're going to get pruning done, we're going to get hand pollination. Let's have a national approach to this.
You know what is the terminology for that?
What?
They cut their suit in the night. They cut the suit in the night. A man said, don't be like them old-time tailors. Old-time tailors, them modern keepers, same thing. They cut the suit in the night.
Yeah. But that's something that we could rectify quickly.
How we gonna do that?
But you have Allison and the other one.
Who is Allison?
Allison is what? Our chief agronomist?
Well, if I don't know them, say once I know them, I say, Pap, give walkie to advertise them.
Yeah.
And we have to.
And then we have Lauren St. Louis, who
I don't know these people.
They're very positive, but Mr. Pierre, you're a retiree. These are young people.
Well, yes. So young people, so we these old people, we have to keep ourselves in a corner because more and more I find this country is becoming very hostile to the elderly. They doesn't come to grips that the elderly may have the resource, they may have the money, they may have the technology. Yeah. But it's difficult for them to deal with the elderly.
Yeah.
And the young one might want to more mash up the place.
Yeah, but I was the part of the team that kind of recommended a think tank for agriculture because agriculture needs so much expertise. You need the think tank to help the minister. I'm not sure whether they continue the think tank in agriculture, but what people don't understand is that when the civil service retire people at 60, those people are at their prime in terms of knowledge.
Prime to stay home and stay away from youth.
No, those people have so much knowledge. And
you don't see the hostility. You say that because you're old? You don't see the hostility in this country against elderly people?
No, I get a lot of call even though I'm old from different people.
But you kind of looking young.
Well, you might have a point because most of the women tell me that,
Yeah, but we need to be concerned. I mean, you could have some fun in it, but if you go back to you was making the point about which I thought was very interesting, about the supermarket chain. Mm-hmm. And then we have that market. Mm-hmm, and individuals know about it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And yet, what you need is the training programs to go out and train.
Yeah, we need that. In addition to that, we need a champion. One of the things that got me into agriculture was Clouden, Senator Clouden. Clouden...
Where is he now? He dead?
Clouden used to make a lot of nice for agriculture in his time. Clouden taking the camera and he going and show what's happening to agriculture.
I remember him from the days of the revolution.
Yeah.
So one day I see some brittle quite on his back. I said, this man must put this brittle there. And in the hot desert, a man said, wait now, you want to go down?
Yeah.
I said, no, this brittle he can't fall on his back.
Yeah. Clouden wasn't an academic unlike some of his brothers. He was a practical man. And he used to say, I take in the camera, I go in and show them what they're doing. He was for the practical in terms of the farm school and the machinery and all of those things.
We have to get a minister that perhaps for the farmers.
Yeah.
Where you get that? The first minister was talking about lunatic and idiot. This next one, that's a challenge.
Yeah, we have a challenge, but the thing about it is that it's achievable. Agriculture is achievable. It breaks my heart. It hurts me to read a report to show agriculture has contracted by 6%. And then when I looked at the forecast, it doesn't look like it'll grow by more than 1 or 2% in the next 3 or 4 years. In the next 3 or 4 years. The Frock report, I read it a little this morning, but I needed more time. And when we have reports like that, there needs to be about 3 or 4 people from agriculture who looks at it and looks at the implication for agriculture and advocate for what we want to see in the next year. It cannot just be like us
for the archives.
Yeah, it cannot just be for the archives, as you say. But it's a nice report. I like how it's written. It's really...
Bright people write it. Come on. Bright people write it. When a guy presents a report like that, he's preparing for a thesis.
It's a very nice report. But like I said, I don't see how much spend per head of the tourists in the report. And that is critical because that is meaningful. It's all right to write all the nice
Might be
things,
about 11 cents.
you know.
But if you go get them to spend 19 cents.
Yeah.
And some of them been asking that, it's a beautiful country, what can I buy?
Yeah, we have the flowers all over. What we're doing about the flowers, we have the fruits, and we have seasonal fruits. Some of them have never tasted our seasonal fruits. I mean, we have to get a champion for agriculture. Maybe one or two, a male and a female. You know, but we need a champion for agriculture. You cannot say to me it's acceptable in this FROC report that agriculture has contracted by 6% and you gloss over it and you go to the next one. That is unacceptable in the report.
But you look as if you're surprised. John Compton, he said the University of the West Indies have done not enough for agriculture. He said we worse off than the days of Pharaoh. Because in the days of Pharaoh, we had the bullocks and the cat. Our academic individuals say, well, tourism taking over, University of the St. John's University, 20% of the GDP, remuneration, agriculture will go down. It's a matter.
Yeah. No,
because you don't see the impact of our intelligentsia involved in agriculture.
Yeah, and Mr. Pierre, I was in a conversation in Grenville yesterday with a friend of mine's, Matthew. He's an accountant. He lives in Sates. And Matthew has tried doing farming, and he was saying to me, Josh, farming don't have no profit in it. Farming don't have nothing in it. You know, it's a bad deal. You know, stay away from farming. And he was sincere.
He's a well-trained intellectual. An individual like him, you could consider him as a regurgitator, an agent for the multinational corporation.
Yeah. So he was telling me that, and I could see the pain because he was trying bananas and he was trying planting, and some of his crops failed. He didn't have irrigation.
Red hands for you biting 22. You got custom tack. You're about to. How much minutes we have left?
Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
When we break, we go to another program. So we go straight to the hour.
Okay.
Right? So how much minutes we have in the hour?
The hour just started.
The hour just finished.
Well, the new one just started.
Right. So we round up here.
Okay.
Yeah. That is what happens when we move in fast.
Yeah.
Joshua.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed the conversation, but
Yeah.
I hope those who are listening, you know, enjoyed it, and I would like to hear more of them contributing, because they have the answers. We all have the answers.
We have to continue to provoke discussion. You know, you have the FROC report, and I like agriculture teachers to take the FROC report as it reflects on agriculture and discuss the issue. Because
Absolutely.
the young ones in school
Yeah.
supposed to be bright.
Yeah.
And if they're doing agriculture, we must see it when they come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But most of the young people that I have come across with an A in agriculture, they don't know much about agriculture. So once again, we thank our brother Joshua for being with us here today, and Gates, and the little one here, the little sister. She in primary school still, but she's training to be a technical operator on our program, the Equalizer. And we thank you very much from Studio Galaxy 473 in Confero. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Them try to kill me and break away. Them don't realize it's the same fight that build ways. I don't need friends, so I'll be lonely. And all I need is time.
Galaxy Equalizers, and we are operating from Studio Galaxy 473 Confero. And the second part of the program, we expect a guest. I guess the guest will join us, or we hope the guest will join us. That's KB. We expect him today on the program. A number of things are taking place. In the meantime, I'll continue until the brother comes in. A number of things are taking place in the country that we always advocate that people must have discussion on. There are some issues that we must discuss. You know, when you have a government in power, the government have policies. We have a democratic system. And our people have to be prepared for the democratic system. If we don't understand the power of our democratic process, we're going to contaminate it. We're going to feel, well, we can't say this, we can't say that. Not because we have the power to say things. We ought not to malign people. We ought not to destroy people's character because you could be sued. Right? You have the right to speak, but you must remember people have the right to challenge what you say. But when government have a policy, it is important for us to know what is the government policy. Particularly when you have new people in a government. And what do I mean by new people? People who was not involved in politics before, so you don't know them. So let me give you an example. Tillman Thomas, even if he's in a new political party, is not a new individual in politics. One could always say Tillman Thomas, I did cut in politics. His father was a very good farmer, a very dynamic and active individual. You have a number of people who start in politics at very young. Keith Mitchell started politics at 24. He went for GNP. And then we had Winston White end up in politics very young too. Winston White was practically law or dragged in politics by Eric Gary because he was a very good debater. He had a very good command of the English language, very sophisticated command of the English language. And Eric Gary was a man who likes that. And he brought in Winston White and make him Minister of Youth and Sport, and one of the first Minister of Youth and Sport in Grenada. We had Dalan, I think it was Dalan. But we had Waple Ned and Nadia Benjamin. Waple Ned and Nadia Benjamin was married individuals, young women with children, and they came into politics. I don't even believe that the family members was active support of Eric Gary. But Gary was an inclusive individual. Because when he went for Winston White, I don't believe Winston White family were part of GNP. And because of their religious belief, the parents too wasn't that interested in politics. And Waple Ned was an Adventist. And at that time, the Adventists didn't want to get that involved in politics. They used to say they must stay away from politics. But Gary went after Waple Ned because of her involvement in social work. And she came from a family that did not necessarily support Gary. And Nadia Benjamin was the same thing. These women was actively involved in social work. So they didn't come from a background of Garyism. And then that continued in the country. When Emmeline Pierre come in politics, she didn't come, the leader, the NNP then, was attracted to Emmeline Pierre because of her involvement with young people. The Rotary Club, going and interview people in the prison with young people and active in her community. So some politicians just look for people who are involved in the community. And these people have been working in the community, so the community know them. They know what they stand for, what they advocate. So Grenada end up in this position where we have 9 members that won the seat in a fair and square election. And you will hear me always saying that. Fair and square. Grenada is a model where election is concerned in the Caribbean. From post-1983, no one was able to challenge successfully in the court and win. No one was able to challenge for any irregularities. And if there were any irregularities, because no system is perfect, it would be vexatious to the court to bring this minor thing there. It would not have changed anything significantly. So we have a good thing going on. So we must not be afraid to discuss political issues. And even if people speak and what they say is not in the interest of the government that be, one must prepare to take them on in discussion. Why you say that? What is the reason you advance for saying that? So you will hear me say, perhaps you have heard me say in another program, that this government is a vulture. And obviously that's a strong word. A vulture, well, you have to Google or go in the dictionary. But the best example is a gigi. All Grenadians know is gigi. Because the gigi go behind those that are weak. So you might see the hen, she put one noise, she make an all chicken run between her wings to hide from the gigi. But if one is late, the gigi snap on it. And somebody say that and people get so angry with you. Sometimes they attack your family members, they attack everything. And the question is, why do you say that? Why do you say that? What reason and justification you have for saying the government is a gigi? And I will come and tell you, bang, 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 give you 8, 9, 10 reasons. Why do I say the government tend to prey on the weak in the country? The government disadvantage the weak to support the strong. And in politics, that's a no-no. You want a government that is inclusive, a government that seeks the interests of everybody. But particularly, yes, scholar, welcome.
Me again.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I like the topic you're speaking on because I always believe politics or politicians should be grassroots. It has to come from the people, and as Abraham Lincoln said, from, of, and by the people. So, if you look at the most successful politicians in Grenada's political history are those that came from the grassroots, community activists, persons who always have this kind of connection with the ordinary man. They are the ones who are most successful in the top of this politics, because apart from politics being grassroots, it is my humble opinion that when people believe that you are a person who feels the same thing that they feel or go through the same experiences, they tend to have a better connection with you, because politics is a lot to do with perception. If it is perceived that a person will help or could affect them in a positive way, it is easier to deal with that person than somebody who they don't really know about. For what happened in the last election cycle, we elected persons that we didn't really know. And learning those persons' characteristic trait now, that is disappointing for a lot of people, because you hear they say, I didn't know that person, but because of that I vote for this person now, I'm understanding what that person is about, and it's not what I expect. So you may hear me on a program Friday asking, did the government meet the expectation of the people? politics is about solving the people and not about claiming to fail. And if you're not of the grassroots type, solving the people will be a challenge that you have to learn so to do. That is my contribution for now.
Yes, I want to welcome and very glad that you called. Yeah. Yes. So in a democratic system, the majority of the people in the country are ordinary people. Government of Grenada is the biggest employer. Only ordinary people going to work with government. In yesteryear, in this present, in this present time, you may have some university graduates, you may have consultants, you may have people who was working with FAO and ICA and CARI that may not consider themselves as ordinary folks. But the majority of people who work with government is ordinary people. People who come from the agricultural sector. People who are market children are market vendors. People whose children are fishermen. People whose children maybe work in the cosmetic industry, in the hairdressing salon. You see how I say cosmetic industry? Because I've learned some new names. In yesteryear, all we know is about hairdressing. Now we know about pedicure and manicure and manicure and all kind of cure. Now we hear new word like masseuse. And I had to find out what is a masseuse. They say people at massage. So, but all these people who are involved in this industry are ordinary people. People who catch the hell and the nenen to send the children for better education. Sometimes what happens is when the children have a better education, the children don't consider themselves as ordinary anymore. The children is no longer ordinary. But the parents didn't know. So sometimes parents have children, but they didn't know the children are ordinary again. The children get so sophisticated that they don't even want to walk the street with their parents. Sometimes you have some people that went to secondary school and by the time they graduate, they don't want the parents to come to the graduation. And I had the opportunity to ask a few, why you don't want your mother to go to your graduation? They say the mother is a kind of woman. And the mother say she buy she clothes. She say she walk in the house, practice with she shoe. She buy she bag. She do she hair. And she hear she daughter telling the neighbor child, she don't want this kind of woman come behind her. You know, tears bathe from her eyes. Well, I told the mother, well, you didn't realize your daughter no longer ordinary person. But the politicians must understand that the majority of people in democratic country is ordinary. Now, if you have Marxist-Leninism or socialism where you don't have democracy, they claim that all you have to have is 15% support. Socialist countries and Marxist-Leninism, they claim that if you have 15 support of the public, then you could rule the country. Because they use the flammable nature of the gun to make you keep yourself quiet, or they jail you. All know Cuba have political prisoners in jail. If they have a democracy and they have freedom of, they may lose election. So these people with Marxist-Leninism, they don't want democracy. They don't want one man, one vote. So what we have in our country, we have to cherish it. Every now and then, individuals go in politics, but they forget the ordinary person. Now again, they try to separate ordinary people into poor and vulnerable. And it makes sense. Because the mother is poor and vulnerable, but she daughter do poor and vulnerable. Sometimes you see some parents, they poor. The children do poor. Shoot. The children have a sophisticated phone for over $2,000. The mother had toilet outside. The mother toilet outside. The children have gold chain, 1,000 something. And she no longer want to throw the poo. So if he all in the morning, she'll go to the pill. But if she feel people go see her, the mother to throw the pill. Yes, caller, welcome.
Yes, senior. It's, there's still an issue because person's not here in the caller. So I don't know what could be done to cause that to be rectified.
I think it's better now.
When you call, the person's not here on the caller, I think.
Well, it seems as though the technician makes some adjustment, so we're going to see if they could hear you. And that is the test. Yeah.
The person's who listen, they want to hear all the callers
Yeah.
are saying. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you, and you'll call me back if you're here. So something is wrong with our mentality. Our mentality. No, so people in the government services is ordinary folks. The only people in the government service you may not consider as ordinary folks is the consultants that come from away. But almost everybody that work with government, the parents poor. Or even if the parents in poor, the grandmother poor. So somebody might go, take for instance, the Grenada have always put a lot of emphasis on education. Eric Gary built 28 schools in 13.5 years. St. George's University Technical Education with the assistance from Canada, pre-primary education, blah, blah, blah. The revolution overthrew Gary and they put a lot of emphasis on tertiary education. So several hundred people went and trained. Some of them, when they come back from training, the revolution collapsed. Other governments continue with that program. The NNP put massive emphasis on education. And they have more scholarship in any period in NNP than any other time in our history. In addition to that, they started to provide assistance for children to go in national college, disadvantaged children, etc., etc. So everybody, the majority of people in Grenada is poor people children. So now that you have 9 members of a government, and you catch the drift, the trajectory that they're going on, the manner in which they're functioning, what they're saying, what they're doing, it seems that a clear line of demarcation has been drawn between the haves and the haves not. Between the ordinary and the not ordinary. And a lot of people who you think ordinary believe they're not ordinary. So in a democracy, you want to expect people speaking about that. You want to expect some of the people who concerned. They say, well, that is Miss Mary daughter. Well, why the girl come and help Miss Mary? The girl in St. George's, she have a nice car, she doing well. Well, why should come and help she mother up here? Because sometimes the neighbors that had to help the mother. Sometimes the child in the house that you put so much emphasis. People say the woman sucks salt and she pong goo to help that child go in school. And the child will fatten on the mother now. This is the kind of language that's used. But when you see a government seems to have a clear line of demarcation in the policies that affects the haves and the haves not, it worries you. And in the democratic process, some people are going to talk. So when we say this government are vultures, it don't make sense getting vexed. Prove to us that this government doesn't prey on the weak, That is why we call it vulture. And that is the reason we use prey on the weak. You see, the previous government had a very strong social safety net program where they provide assistance to people. So the previous government claimed in a worst case scenario, we do not have to fire or cause anybody to lose their job for 4 months. They said that was one of the strong advocacy of Gregory Bowen. The government, we don't matter what we do. When they tell Gregory Bowen do this thing, he said no. We have to have a buffer zone. So people mustn't lose their job because of the war in Ukraine. If it turn a world war or whatever the case may be, for 4 months we go able to demolay. Now we have another government comes into power with a different policy. The policy is hostile, or it appears, or it seems, or we interpret the action to be hostile against people in the lower income group. And they're supposed to be ordinary people. But they claim they do ordinary. Now to compound insult with injury, while we're saying this is what they're doing, we listen to the language of the government. The language of the most senior members of the government is also very demeaning, very insulting, very disgraceful, very objectionable towards people in the lower income group. We're talking about the Prime Minister, the first among equal, the shepherd. The second one is the Minister of Legal Affairs. Your Minister of Legal Affairs is an important group. The Minister of Legal Affairs is another very important one. You don't expect your Minister of Legal Affairs to be using this kind of language. You expect the Minister of Legal Affairs to be inclusive, to be an ordinary person, to seek the interests of people in the lower income group. You know? So it kind of shocks you when you find governments using this language. A brother back with us, one of the brothers has joined us back. And I've just been speaking about the democratic process and the fact that we have the people in the lower income group. You want your government to be inclusive, seeks everybody's interest, but at least the people in the lower income group pay particular attention to them. And I was worried, and I've never heard your comment on some of the languages that the government seems so ready to come out minister's mouth. When you speak about people are classless and people are, and it is so widespread, good people, classless people, this language is practically unacceptable. 50 years after independence, that is what I might call disturbing language. You hear me, brother?
I hear you.
Yeah, it's disturbing language. And I think it's a lack of understanding. In the democratic process, one man, one vote. Mm-hmm. So it is in the interest of all politicians to be cognizant of the majority of people come from the lower income group.
But I read or I was talking to somebody about that, and what they were saying is, people, to use the term poor people, are the ones who elect governments, and they are very important in terms of what they do in terms of electing government. And the person was saying to me that what happens is that there's a dependency that governments practice with people who are struggling in terms of financially, economically. And that is, you're probably more familiar with this than I am. They create that dependency culture because the vote is so important every 4 years. So what happens is they get a little bit, and they go from hand to mouth. But the numbers are so big that it makes a difference comes election. I think that was probably a conversation, probably outside Maxi Bar, that I was having with somebody who was giving me their political views and systems and democracy. Mm. Yeah.
Yes, you see, if that is a policy, but the language, when you hear your Attorney General speaking and your Prime Minister, and the language could be very demeaning, and you could see some evidence, but it plays out on the ground. That is not what you want to have. You want a sense, even the financial institutions and the big business talking about being inclusive, and we talking about CARICOM trying to work together. And in a small country like Grenada, where all of us is cousin, pumpkin vine people. You know what I say? Pumpkin vine people.
Yes.
You know, this new fracture, whether it's perceived or what, is unproductive and may not necessarily even be in your political interest.
Yeah, but it sounds from the point that you're making is that language can exclude people, and language can hurt people, and you see that often in people's behavior when certain language is used towards them. So we need to be cognizant, as you say. And it's interesting because I was saying this to some hotel workers recently. You have authority. You don't really have power, but you have authority. And you're using that authority to make people feel bad and to oppress people. Why don't you use it to do good? Why don't you use it to make people feel good? Why don't you use it to meet the goals of your organization? Why this pettiness all the time?
Yes, I think it's a good way to put it. And I don't know if this resurgence of this language, and I call it a resurgence because when I was in school, some of the language as used was very harsh. Illiterates, stupid, stinking gay rights, cadavers. One of the I remember racing to the dictionary to find out what cadaver meant.
Yeah.
Because
it's the first time I've heard that.
Cadavers.
Cadavers.
Yes, because you see when the university, the St. George's University came into Grenada, that word come in. And it was associated with the gay rights.
Okay.
Because yes, caller. We have a caller on the line? Yes, caller.
Man.
Yes, my brother.
You're speaking a lot about the gay rights today, man.
Yeah, we're shifting all around because we're speaking about basically the democracy and who commands the majority in terms of one man, one vote. Yeah.
But actually, why me and the other person who usually be on the program radio today, we organizing something in the rules here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fundraising to help some needy and sick people.
Okay.
So you kind of coordinate it, so that's why you kind of off today.
All right, I know, that's acceptable.
But we'll come back swinging next week, man.
All right, okay. Yeah.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, you see, we as a people, one would believe, yeah. Okay. So I believe where this politics is concerned, although we have 9 new people in politics, but they should mature enough to know that you only succeeded because of one man, one vote. And they seem to believe, well, we shouldn't be criticized. Well, you cannot, in this modern day and age, we have a democracy. And we have the via, the medium, radio, social media. And it seems they are shocked or they're disappointed that they are criticized. And they have to understand this is the nature of our democracy. And we are strengthening our democracy
Right.
by making suggestions, pointing out where you go wrong, and you should learn from it
Yeah.
and recover quickly.
Yeah, but you have to remember the culture, especially with men and women to a lesser extent, is very ticklish. People don't take positive criticism lightly. As somebody once said to me, you got to stroke their balls if you want them to do anything. So if you grow up in a culture where you want to correct somebody, they see it as something hostile and something more like a put down. They're not hearing, they're not receptive. So what they do is they come out swinging. They're not really hearing what's being said. They just know that you sound like you're criticizing me. It's not the fact that, okay, we live in a world of continuous improvement and therefore the greatest idea could come from the least of us. And everybody has to be listened to. Everybody view is valuable. It's not that we're a position society. I am the Attorney General. I am the parliamentary representative. And that in itself, that kind of positional society, I call it, that we have in Grenada, it's like. People develop a deference to others. I've even noticed like the people don't, once they have a position or a title, they don't even want to necessarily walk with you. They want to walk on their own. And we're very kind of positional in terms of Grenada. We love titles, we love positions, but quite often what we don't get held to account for is outcomes. Now, I love the day when, people will be judged based on their contribution rather than just words. I think that when we move towards that part of the democratic process where people have to deliver, I think that will sensitize a lot of people better, because one of the things that people will start to understand is that we're not an independent state or independent person. We're an interdependent state and an interdependent individual. We all, to a lesser or greater degree, depend on each other and need each other. This kind of once every 4 or 5 years democracy where, you just listen and you don't kind of debate with anybody, but you just, yeah. Okay, I have your vote? Yes, you have my vote.
Yes, and Michael Battis always remind people, eggs have no place in rock stone dance. And politics is rock stone dance. And I am always a little bit cautious when I'm dealing with thin-skinned politicians. I don't gravitate towards thin-skinned politicians because politicians have power. The winner takes it all. And if you have 9 members or 10 members in government, they pass the laws whether you like it or not. They have power. So if they are thin-skinned, they could be very vindictive.
Yeah.
And some of the ways our politicians could be vindictive and the public don't see. They're against me, but my daughter can get a scholarship.
Yeah, but I've seen that vindictiveness in our society, and I once used to do like assessments in terms of personalities, and one of the things that we used to do, we used to measure people's age, their chronological age. We used to measure their mental age, how intelligent they are, etc. and then the emotional age. And quite often, people who commit the most horrendous of crimes, rape, murder, etc., often what you would find is that the chronological age and body might be 50, the intellectual age might be, say, 60, but the emotional age would be, no, it'll be about 3 or 4. They would basically be practicing those primitive emotion in terms of, if you ever see children, in preschools, you'll see some of them will poke the other in the eye because their conscience hasn't developed as yet. And what I see, because a lot of our education has been based on regurgitation, it's not really been based on a great deal of thinking. So we write very well and we remember a lot of things. But when it comes to the innovation, we've not really been fully exposed to that area. So what I've experienced is highly intellectual men behaving as tyrants, and that's because emotionally they haven't allowed that part of the development to take place. And I always kind of think, oh my God, you such an intellectual person, and you behaving like such a tyrant. And it's that lack of emotional development that often causes that. And also our culture can be harsh at times.
Of course, the culture can be harsh, and that is why one had a encounter with an individual that wants to go to politics. His wife said, "Don't go." She said, "Don't go." She said, "Don't get involved in politics." And he said, well, he don't understand why. The wife, because he's intelligent, good sociable person, people like him, politician. The wife said, "Don't go," because the wife know her character might end up on the table. Because when you go in politics today, your wife, your spouse, your brother, your family members, everybody else could be dragged in the fray.
Yeah, and not only dragged in negatively, but positively. Your wife or your husband might be given a nice job. So,
But that is one way of thinking about it. And if she in position for nice job, she might want you to go.
yeah.
But if she was a very charitable woman when she was young, she may not want to go in politics because her leaning will maybe washed in public.
Yeah.
And you have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
You cannot go and show your children, because some children they can't handle the parents in politics.
Yeah, but we have to be careful we don't make decisions or policy based on negative outcome, because the point being, politics touches every facet of a person's life. Now, they might say, I don't have anything to do with politics, but politics touches every facet of
If they don't interfere with politics, politics go interfere with them.
Yeah. You pay taxes wherever you go, etc.
And government policies affect you.
Yeah. So it's how we think about it. And sometimes we have a way of taking a 5% that's not very good in our political system, and we turn it into 95%, and then we kind of throw out the baby with the bathwater. And we have to avoid those kind of quick fix thinking, because life is complex. And I say to people quite often, look, the man don't like you, but somewhere along the line, you may have to work with him. You may need him. So we have to mature our thinking. You don't necessarily have to like somebody to work with them to get a result. And because you don't like a person, you don't have to display it. You don't have to do anything bad against them, because the small society that we live in, there are too many people not talking to each other, and I find it amazing that you have a bad word with somebody or a different view, and essentially you enemies. I remember having a political debate with one of my neighbor, and I was sharing my views in terms of what I see going on. You know, I tend to try and be apolitical because I'm into nation building. So whatever government is in power, I work with them. And the person was a staunch person for their party. And they stopped talking to me, and I wonder what's going on. And then my landlady said, "Well, you tell him about this, and you tell him about that, and they should, he holds you as the an opponent. Like if you belong to the other party, not that you have views, but once you have a view that differs from him, it's because you belong to the other party."
And we have paid our price for that in Grenada.
Mhm.
We have paid our price for that in Grenada. You have an issue, you don't agree with a politician, you don't agree with government, you pay the price. And so, a lot of time, you pay the price that the public don't see
Yeah.
because your children are affected.
Yeah.
In a nice way, that one never get a scholarship, and that one never get that.
Yeah.
And you find a lot of people send their children away.
Yeah. And Mr. Pierre, somebody told me something very disturbing. They said to me, where does that come? And they pointed to the top. They tell me it comes from the top. That kind of sanctioning these kind of immature behavior. I don't know how true it is, but
let's take that call. We have a call on the line. Caller, go right ahead.
I heard you mention something about the nature of politician, like I say, thin skin politician, mango sealant politician. A politician don't supposed to be mango sealant, the skin don't supposed to be thin.
No.
Because you putting yourself out there, you become a public figure, so you have to realize there will be a level of scrutiny on you. So if you don't want to be scrutinized by everyone, it don't make sense you putting it in because that comes with the territory.
Yeah. Go in the lab and watch virus and bacteria, look in a microscope.
Because one of the best examples I heard of was Dr. Eric Williams.
Yeah.
When men saying certain things, you just stick out hearing it and tell them that they speak when they finish the whole thing. So a politician have to be a politician have to have a level of tolerance also.
Yeah.
Because you can't expect to be in the political realm and react to everything anybody say about you. It's like saying you cannot back at every flying bird. You won't get nothing done. So politicians have to realize once you decide to get into the field of politics, which deals with more perception than reality, and persons for their own political or otherwise business would say things, so you have to learn to roll with the punches, as they would say. That's my contribution.
Yes, we had a prime minister in the Caribbean. They used to call him Brian Nancy. So, right way passing, them fellas always on a wall. See on the wall, the way vehicle passing when he go in the office. And those guys will always say, Brian Nancy! Brian Nancy! So he sent a tractor and mash up the wall. He said the wall live for over 100 years. He break down the wall.
Oh, dear.
So those guys, well, they couldn't sit down again to call him Brian Nancy. So Brian Nancy done. So you always have to be concerned. And somebody could call me and tell me if they know which island in the Caribbean. They used to call the politician Brian Nancy. So it's a very important thing for our politicians to understand. If you want to go in politics, you have to be prepared to take some criticism. And that is why if you was involved in groups and activities before, they might have criticized you there, and they know you could handle.
Yeah, they still criticize.
And you would not be that vindictive because you have power. The politicians exhibit power. And as I say, sometimes they cannot touch the individual. The individual might be a retired person, don't depend on government or politician. He has fair measure of independence.
Mm-hmm.
But when a name come up like Galt, they say Galt, Galt wants scholarship. No.
Oh God.
And then the best thing for that individual is for his children to go away.
Yeah. Oh
And
gosh.
over the years, we have lost a lot of
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah. One of the biggest loss that I've seen recently, and I guess many people would disagree with me, on that loss. But I'll come to it. But before I do, I just had a thought. Each of us is not for everybody. Not everybody will like us. Not everybody will share our views. So sooner rather than later, people have to understand that they're not for everybody. I know sometimes I would walk into a room and I could see people don't like me for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe the way I dress, maybe the way I talk. But that is how it is. I have certain kind of ideas how to do things, and I could do straight away. People don't like it. What I say to them is, "Well, show me your idea. If it's better, I will follow you." But sometimes, what I've noticed in our society is not that the idea is wrong, but people don't like the person who's promoting the idea, and that is unfortunate. They would if they were the one promoting the idea, they would be all for it, but they don't like Mr. John to be promoting the idea, and it's the person that they don't like. It's not the idea, and that is really unfortunate. But I want to talk about something that has happened to our society. One of the most brilliant men that I've worked with, written documents with, etc., is Royal Edwards, and the whole marketing board fiasco, and how he was made to be the scapegoat. And to a degree, he doesn't work in Grenada anymore, but he works for an international agency, and he's having a major influence on regional development, which I'm very pleased that he's doing that. I read some of the stuff that he's working on in Guyana, in Dominica, in Trinidad, etc. And it's unfortunate because one of the things about development is this. Um, Everybody somewhere in their life may make a mistake, but is it deliberate? Is it conscious? Or is it just part of your development as an individual? And I think, in terms of, Royal Edwards, I think he's been treated somewhat unfairly in terms of the blame that was put on him. And it's heavy for an individual, a bright individual like him, to take all the blame. I was part of the structural adjustment program, and I remember the IMF advocating to close down marketing board. Government had a different view. They weren't going to close it down. And I also remember that, the recommendation was 2 million to be invested in marketing board. That was never done, and the organization struggled in terms of working capital. But the point I want to make is that, we are a Christian society, real Christian society, and over 50% of the household are headed by single parent women, but we're a big Christian society. Christianity teaches forgiveness, tolerance, etc. But I think we operate in boxes. When it suits us, we just operate in the I'm going to blame, I'm going to kind of kill you boxes. We're not integrated in terms of stuff. And it saddens me that such a gifted individual as Roll is not in Grenada, developing Grenada.
Yeah, well, it's the same point that we stress that people in authority Because some people in authority, they have power. And if their skin is thin, they end up being vengeful. And we have to have a lot of discussion to let people know that vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Last time a fella tell me vengeance is mine, I say you want to go and pelt some scripture on me. Says the Lord, not you. So our skin must not be thin. And politicians have to understand that. A man may not vote for you today, but that same man may be your mouthpiece tomorrow. So they need to understand. And one of the challenges a lot of politicians have, they come with policy, but they believe they don't have a right to explain the policy to you. I'll tell you, not now. If you are acting on my behalf, when you speak, it is on my behalf. And if you have a policy, you have a responsibility to explain that policy to us. We have a minute more?
A minute.
Right. So we come to the almost end of the program, and once again we want to thank those who call, those who are listening. Remember, we are a new kid on the block, so we want you to help us to grow. And one of the ways you could help us to grow is to share our program and speak about it and like our program and subscribe to Studio Galaxy 473. And our brothers in the diaspora are a really important part of our development. And we have had one of the brothers on the program already. But you could communicate with us and we're able to fit you in on the program. And we speak on any topic because we believe the brothers in the diaspora, the brothers and sisters. When I say brothers, I mean brothers and sisters. I'm from the old school, trying to change. So the brothers and sisters in the diaspora, please try us. Try us. If we don't make no sense, then you abandon us. But don't abandon us before you know it makes sense. Joshua, I want to thank you again, my brother, Joshua and Gates, where we have been. Gates has been instrumental in helping us get off the ground. And we have our young technician. And what I like to see, she's in primary school. And I say that not only as a compliment for her, to tell our people, the children in primary school, that is the age where you put all your emphasis. That is the age you get hungry for education when they're in primary school. Thank you very much.
Try to kill we and break way. Them don't realize it's the same fight that build way. I don't need friends.